So there's a couple things that stand out. I think that HashiCorp is doing a really good job of hitting the high points in all of the areas that people are looking at across the full stack of DevOps tools. So Terraform and Packer have been around for a while. And I think that HashiCorp is starting to go to market in a way that Atlassian did in their early days, where let's get these products out there and get the developers to fall in love with them. And then when they become mission critical for the organization, then there'll be a market for us to capitalize on. And so like I've heard of many organizations using Terraform and Packer for many years. However, now that it's very prolific in the environment, I'm starting to see ways that we want to bring more security around that product or the usage of those products. And that sometimes leads to enterprise agreements, whereas previously you could get away with a smaller investment. Then you also have like the Kubernetes movement, and where you have like Nomad getting in there to help out with things. A lot of their products really benefit the horizontal scale that everybody is moving to in the cloud. And then a big one that we noticed internally here was around Vault. And we were initially a customer of Vault and we had a really hard time with adoption because it wasn't anything that was on anybody's radar for secret management. We then had a big push from our own customers for a better secret management solution and chose to embed the Vault product in our own product, as well as using it internally for secret storage. So from the security perspective, I think Vault is really driving a lot of things, both for internal usage, as well as how we choose to build our products for our own customer markets.
That's fantastic. I was going to kind of touch upon all of them, but you did it. So let's just real quickly recap. Their flagship product, Terraform, has been around for a really long time, seems to be leading the market for them. We can see that here in the automation space, just consistent growth higher. On the key security management side, Vault, again, really growing extremely strongly. You talked about Istio before, and really Console is basically their competitor or answer to Istio. When we compare the two, Istio is much higher than Console. But, you know, if you're going to align with HashiCorp, it's nice that they have all of those tools together. And then Nomad for container orchestration. Listen, Kubernetes was first to market, right? I'm sorry, Docker was first to market. There was a point where the word Docker was basically synonymous to container. And that's really fallen off. Mirantis tried to buy them, tried to revamp it, but according to our data, it's not really working. I'm curious, does it really matter on the orchestration side? Do you need Nomad, or can you just use Kubernetes? It's just an area that's extremely still kind of greenfield for a lot of people. When I ask them, their workloads on containers are less than 5% of total workloads. So I'm just curious your thoughts real quickly on how Nomad's going to break into that market.
It's an interesting question because you can get away with Kubernetes by itself. It's not ideal, and you're going to spend a lot more time, and you're probably going to need more staff to get the same amount of job done as you would if you go with any of the orchestration tools. Nomad itself, I think, is kind of a niche product in a sense of if you're not standardizing on HashiCorp, then Nomad wouldn't make sense to you. And I think that's where we see other players in the orchestration space really coming up, where I think you don't see Docker doing well or Mirantis doing well. It really goes back to like the original vision for Docker by the original founders of like just trying to make things work well for people, but not seeking to be super profitable off of it. And then when you buy up that vision and try to change it into a profitable thing, I think you're going to have hiccups and bumps along the road. We have an existing relationship with Mirantis right now, and we are actively trying to move off of that. And we are more aligned with AWS, so we like the native AWS solutions, and that is the direction that we are headed. However, I think it depends on what your IT organization's previous experience is. If you're more in the on-prem space and you like the VMware style products, then I think things like IBM's OpenShift are going to be very important to you because they help you with that transition from old world thinking into new world thinking. Whereas if you're squarely in the new world thinking, then the default tools in either AWS or Azure, depending on your investment, are going to be the future.
This is fantastic, Jeff. I'm learning so much. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. So just one last question about Hashi before we move on. I am curious. You said sort of like Atlassian. If HashiCorp could be an early Atlassian, then that's a really good news for all of their investors. Do you actually envision them having that kind of success?
I'm going to say no, only because I think that Atlassian did a really good job getting to market, but then I would credit their meteoric rise to their marketplace and the fact that they license out to third parties to extend their product, which allows me to go into any organization and say, I don't really care what your problems are, I can solve them with an Atlassian product, because it's like the Apple adage of there's an app for that.
Okay, let's see. I appreciate that very much, and Atlassian is certainly one of the stronger performers. We are seeing over time that it's kind of coming down a little bit, but we don't break it out as always in each single product. So let's just talk about the Atlassian suite for a second. As a DevOps person, I'm sure that you just absolutely live in Jira all day long. Even myself, and not in the DevOps side, but Trello has kind of permeated every organization, no matter how old you are or how old school you are. So I would just love to talk maybe a second about Atlassian. Do you see continued growth for them when you look at your spending, or is it sort of flat at this point?
No, I think, so I have an interesting point of view on Atlassian because I'm also a volunteer community lead for the Atlassian community, where I'm organizing in-person events to help end users of their ecosystem. And I can tell you that the whole community was really rocked by their end of life for server announcement. And a lot of the community leadership and community members have fallen away because the passion is kind of gone. And now we're kind of stuck with it until we can find something else. And there's even entire websites that have sprung up to help move customers away from Atlassian based on the server announcement. So I expect that with the SaaS movement, their stock's going to do really well. They're going to do really great things because people are kind of hooked and they don't have an option right now. But in the next 5 to 7, I see that really starting to fall off as other developers like JetBrains come up with the on-premise solutions necessary for enterprise organizations.